Okay. Masechta bava basra daf mem aleph amud aleph. We're going to start from the Mishnah. Kol chazaka she'ein ima taina. Any chazaka which doesn't come together with a taina. You can't say I was there 3 years and automatically the field is mine because nobody said anything. Nobody was meicha. It doesn't work that way. If you want the chazaka to be a chazaka, it has to come with a taina that I bought it from the other person. And v'haraya, I bought it from the other person. I had 3 years of a chazaka. But just that having the 3 years of a chazaka, that doesn't constitute. We
have different ways now why you need 3 years.
Okay, we're going to get to that later. Okay, so he says, no, Rabbi Hakibi, Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Hakibi, Rabbi Yishmael. You're going to see some. Kol chazak she'eni ma taina. So he says, any chazaka that doesn't come with a taina, in a chazaka, it's not a chazaka. Ketzad, what is a case of a chazaka that doesn't come with a taina? So the Mishnah spells it out. Amalei, mata eizim essentially. The guy asks if Reuben comes to Shimon. He sees Shimon in his field, and Reuben says to Shimon, "What are you doing in my field?" Amalei, and Shimon answers back, "Hey, shaloi amalei adam dav me'elam. I'm here 3 years. Nobody told me a thing. It's mine." Egna chazaka. In such a case, it's not a chazaka. And now he wants to tell you that even in the case where there's all types of different chazakas. There's chazakas of 3 years, and there's like cheskes tashmishim, like somebody who believes that we had in the Gemara early on, when somebody puts a beam over your wall, so that is a chazaka right away, because you should have been meicha, I'm leaning, I have my beam over your wall. So over there too, the chazaka has to come with a taina. Zok the Gemara, zok the Mishnah weiter, but what's if he says, machartali, or shenasatali matana, you sold the field to me and I have 3 years of chazaka, or you had given it to me as a matana, or avicha machali, or your father had sold it to me, avicha nasnali matana, or your father had given it to me as a matana. So that's coming with a taina. He's saying it's mine. Either your father gave it to me, you sold it to me, any of these tainas, or you gave it to me as a present. So the Mishnah, like the. So if he said any of these tainas, plus he had a chazaka, he says, look, yichaba taina and yichaba raya. My raya is that I'm here 3 years and he didn't say a word. You should have been meicha. Harei zu chazaka, then it is a chazaka. But the habam mishum yerusha, here's an exception. If somebody inherited a house, a field, whatever it should be, ain't it tzarich taina? In such a case, he doesn't need a taina. Why? Very simple. Because he inherited it, and now Reuben his father. He says, "I got this as a Yerusha," and Reuben comes to the Yisayim and he says, "Hey, what are you doing in my field? It's my field. This is I inherited from my father." We also have to remember the father had to be there for 1 day. We brought down from the Gemara before. Only if the father was there at least 1 day, then we have the saying of Psach Picha Le'ilim. We have to open up for Eilim. How should he know when his father bought it? He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to deal with how his father got it. We Bezdin will taina for him that his father bought it, and he's going to have to be on the defensive because he was there a day. But that's a takana that the Chacham made. That's a Yiddish. A Yiddish. The seichel is because a Yiddish doesn't have all the whereabouts, what happened in his father's time, how he got the field. The will is not enough. Yeah. So he says, "Befreidish." That's the reason. That's it. That's what he said. Mishum shemistaber she'enu baki beiskei aviv ladas heich bas ad liyadei. Okay, you understand? The Rashbam says, "Befreidish." He's not a baki in how the field came to his father. He doesn't have to.
No, he just has to prove that
the father was there 1 day. That's it. Even just 1 day is enough. So the Yimara Pshita, since the Machzik is not tining the karka, but it belongs to him, he's just saying he was there for 3 years, is self-understood that the Chazaka won't help to make the field his. Chazaka alone without a tiner, how could a Chazaka help? So the Yimara Mal the Tema, I would have thought, Hai Gavra Mizban Zavnule Hai Ara. He says, yeah, the Machzik, Bemes, bought the karka from, let's say, Reuben bought the karka from Shimon. Ushtara Havale. He did have a star vehicus, but he lost the star. Now, this that he's saying, I have 3 years of chazaka without a taina, because he's Amaretz. He doesn't know these halachas. So he says, if I'm going to say, I bought this karka, he's going to say, show me your star. So that's why I didn't want to say that I bought it and I lost my star. Because I don't, so he says, Siog lachach meshtika. But nicht steht Siog first and then lachach meshtika. Aber nicht, das meint nicht lachachem is never schweigt. Amol, Siog lachachem, to wisdom is shtika, but a chachem, if you, a chachem has no vent to schweigen. Okay. Anyway, over here, he's afraid to say that he had a chazaka. I mean that he bought it and he lost the star, because if he says that, they're going to demand the star. He didn't know that the chazaka could take the place of the star and serve as a raya that he bought it. Says therefore us Bezdin, I would say that Bezdin will intervene and say and put him words in his mouth. Maybe you had a star and you lost it. Well, ask him. So I would have thought we should do that. Because for instance, for such a case, I would have thought that's where we have to open up and help another person when he doesn't know the halachas. Kamashmalan, this is not the case. No, he has to come and say on his own that he bought it. So the Rashbam brings down that if he himself first said that he had a chazaka for 3 years without a taina, he just had it for 3 years. And then he says, you know why I said that? Because I didn't know the chazaka takes the place of a star. But now that I know the chazaka takes the place of a star, he could explain himself. He could say, I really bought it, I lost the star, and I just heard that a chazaka could take the place of a star, so I had a chazaka. Huh? No, nicht das. Wir haben gesagt, also Eber sagt nicht kein Taina. Ist es nicht kein chazaka, it's not a raya. So what's if he didn't say a taina l'chatchila? He just said I was there 3 years, and then he chapsich. Maybe a chazaka is supposed to take the place of a star. So he chapsich. Oh, chazaka. So let me tell the truth. So in Bezdin, he backs up and he explains himself. You know, I didn't want to say a taina. Let me tell you why. Because I was afraid. But really, I just remember the chazaka does take the place of a star. And really, I bought it, but I lost the star. So that would help if he himself said it. But if he doesn't say anything, if he just says he was there 3 years, that's not going to help to be a raya for this that he bought it. That it says. So the mother Anav Simen. Anav is the Rav Onan, and what's the words and Kahana, Rav Kahana. We're going to talk about it now. So the mother, the Nun represents Rav Onan, and Rav Kahana is the base. Huh? Rav Kahana, he says the Nun, Rav Onan, Ayin is the Rav Onan, and the Nun is Rav Kahana, is the Nun. Okay. And the base represents that these are 2 cases, and we're going to say the 2 cases. Rav Onan shaka bitka bi'are. Rav Onan, a flood came and flooded his field, and it broke down the wall, the mechitza between him and his chaves field. Then Rav Onan didn't remember where exactly was the middle, so he was a little bit gracious on his side, and he made his field a little bit bigger, a few more inches, a few more feet, and he built the wall a little further into the friend's field. So Rav Onan came with the balsada to Rav Nachman. Amalei, so Rav Nachman said to Rav Onan, listen, you build a wall in his field. Zilhada, go and remove the wall and bring it back. He says, Zikili. So Rav Onan says, I have a chazaka.
3 years.
No, Nishkin 3 years. I put there the wall. He even agreed. He saw me building the wall as I'd gone. It's as if he said, he was masking, yeah, perfect. We'll see soon even that he helped him build a wall there. So he says, listen, I have a chazaka. So Amalei, so Kiman. He says, like whom are you referring to that you have a chazaka? He says, Ki Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yishmael. The Amri Kol b'fon of the Alta have a chazaka. If it's in front of your face, it's right away chazaka. So there's a machlokes really between Rabbi Yishmael. What's the reason of 3 years chazaka? So Rabbi Yishmael, and it seems like Rabbi Akiva holds also because Rabbi Akiva is brought down I'm sorry, Rabbi Yishmael is brought down on Nun Tes, he brings down, that if somebody opened up a window towards his friend's chotzer, he could leave it there if he wasn't meicha. So he says there's a din. What's the reason for the 3 years of chazaka? Because a person could even travel up to a year away from his field. So Espana means he moved to Spain. And Spain, in that time, was a Mahalach Shona. So he would have to, if somebody would have to make a chazaka in that guy's field, his friend has to find out, that's the first year. He travels to Spain, which is the second year, it takes a year. And when the Balabas hears, he has to travel back and be meicha the guy in the field. So that's 3 years. But so that's how Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva.
You can do it through a telephone?
No. You saw it, maybe at Machaber. Funny we said it was Eitz Teva. But anyway, so that was the purpose of the 3 years. But what's if he was right there and the guy was making a chazaka right in front of him? According to Rabbi Shmuel, it would be a chazaka right away. The only reason of the 3 years is because for the guy who lives far a year away, and it takes a year. It takes a year till we find out if this guy is making a chazaka, and then once we find out the second year the guy's traveling, and then the balakaka comes back. Same thing. It's still the traveling has to travel. When do the chavrach find out that he's making a chazaka? While the guy stays there for a little while in the first year. So friends travel to Spain. Will take another year. The balakaka hears he has to come back. It takes another year to make a machor in front of him. But if he lived right there, l'chayda would be a chazaka right away. But he says less hilchas hakavosei. The halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yishmael. Rather, the whole reason of chazaka is for the person who's holding the star. You have to be meicha because up to 3 years a person will hold a star. If nobody says something, he loses his star. So the purpose of the 3 years is for the person. You have to be meicha in the 3 years, so the guy should still hold on to the star. Not like we said that for a person who's distant away, according to that day, it's always 3 years. And that's why he holds it's not a chazaka, even though...
Who said that? Rava said that, no?
He asked Rabbanan, who are you paskening that you have a chazaka right away? So he said, like Rabbi Yishmael, but he said the halach is not like that. Chazaka is after 3 years, so it's not right away. Amalei, Rabbanan said, v'hachil. We know that he was Meichel. How do we know he was Meichel? The also Yisiya Beguda Behadoi. He went ahead and he helped Ravanan build the wall. So this himself, when he helped to build the wall, proves that he was Meichel. So the Gemara Rav Nachman said the Mechila of the Balakarka Mechila B'Tarsi. That's a Mechila by mistake, because at Gufach, you yourself, if you would have known exactly where the wall really belongs. You wouldn't have made the wall in his property. If you knew exactly where it belongs, you would have made it in the right place. So just like you didn't know, and Ravanan, usually Chachamim have Tfiyas Ayin. We always say by a new Kli, they could give a siman, even though there's no simanim, because they have a Tfiyas Ayin. Ravanan, if he didn't know where the center is, of course the simple person wouldn't know. So who nami lo have yoda? He himself wouldn't. This your friend wouldn't have known either. And this that he helped you, help a sage. You want to help a chacham. You wanted to help build a wall, of course.
For sure, is he happy that he took it?
Huh?
He doesn't know he took a machor. So he's happy that he made the wall.
So it's the reason why. Who's happy again? No, so he wasn't meichel. The person wasn't meichel because he didn't know. He didn't know where the middle of wall was, where the middle is.
But he helped him.
He helped him because he thought that the Rabbanan is putting it there. It must be the right place. And he wants to help a tzaddik. And he's helping himself. Yeah. Well, here he says that he's helping a sage, a chacham. Yeah, he didn't know. And he thought he's helping. You're right, helping himself also. But he says he wants helping a chacham, Rabbanan. It says over here. He brings down. But he says if Rabbanan didn't know, so he didn't know either. So that's why it looked like he was Meichel. He was never Meichel. He thought Rabbanan is placing the wall where it's supposed to be. By him helping him is a raya that he's Meichel. He is allowing him to build the wall in the right place. He gave him the okay.
But in the end, he's not Meichel.
Of course not. He was never Meichel, but he thought
realize,
he
whatever.
didn't realize. He thought Rabbanan. He saw
Elachid,
that Elachid, and he's doing it in the right place and finished. Yeah, right.
The mitzvah of Moshe Tazik. The mitzvah.
Yeah. Rav Kahana Shokol Bitke Be'are. Here you have a similar story. Rav Kahana, again, a flood went into his field, and the mechitzas were taken from the, were knocked off the gevulim. Ozl Hoda Guda Be'are the Loy day. He went ahead. All these Tanaim make these mistakes on the wrong side, and they build a wall into the friend's field.
He didn't have good tissue.
They should not be building walls.
Yeah. You leave it up to Trump, he'll build the walls. Okay. Asala Kamei de Rabbi Yehuda. So Rav Kahana came with the Balasada, who was his neighbor. He came before Rabbi Yehuda. Azal Aisi Sadi. He went ahead and he brought two witnesses. But of the two witnesses, Chad Amar Tate Utziyasa'ol. One of the witnesses said he went in 2 shures. Chad Amar Tlas Utziyasa'ol. And another 8 said no, he went in 3. Amalei Zil Shalem Tarte Migutlas. Go pay 2 out of the 3, because you talk it 1 against 1, but between you two, what do you have in common? You have in common that that 2 shures for sure he went in. So a shaila, if he went in another shura into the guy's field, Amalei, come on, like who are you holding? Afghan? He said to Rabbi Yehuda, come on. So he says, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya that we learned in Abraisa, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar had said, Loi nechleku beishamei beisila al shtei kitei eidim. She'achas eimedes mana be'achas eimedes masayim sheyesh b'chal masayim mana. He says everybody agrees. If it was 2 eidim against 2 eidim. Till now we were talking about 2 eidim, and one said 2 shudas, one said 3 shudas. But everybody agrees if it was 2 eidim against 2 eidim, and 2 eidim said it was 2 shudas, 2 eidim said 3 shudas, everybody agrees that the 2 is part of the 3. He has to move back for sure 2. The third one is a suffix because they're soise each other. So you leave the shuda where it belongs, because you can't be mitzi mama in misafik. Says the Gemara, Amanachleku. So where was Beishamai and Beisilo arguing? Al kat achas. Like our case, there was 1 and 1. One of the Eidim said it's 1. And one of the Eidim said it was 200. 2 shudas. Or he calls it Manav and Masayim. Okay. There was talking about money. 100 and 200. Beishamai says it's 1 pair of Eidis, and you have 1 against 1, and they face each other, and the Eid is no good, because 1 Eid was makish the other. So you're dealing with a puzzle Eid. It's no good. The whole Eidis is puzzle. So therefore, you can't use this since each one said. Well, no, you said one said 2 and one said 3. So l'chayda, you can't put them together and say 2 they agreed to. It's just the third one that they're arguing about. It doesn't work that way. If it's 1 against 1, one is makach, the other Eidus. It's 2 separate Eidus. It's like 2 separate kitim. So according to Beishamai, it's nothing. It's not. They don't have to pay the 2. Beis Hillel says no. We are mitzvah of the Eidus, since they're only arguing about the third mana. So therefore 2 he has to pay for, and the halach is like Beis Hillel. So that's what. So we said Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who learned that the machlokes was by 1 against 1. And the halach is like by Beis Hillel, when it's 1 against 1, you are mitzvah of the Eidus in what they have in common. And what did they have in common? 200. And in our case, what did they have in common? 2 shudas. The wall went in 2 shudas. It's not arguing only about the third shudah. So we'll say he has to bring it back 2 shudas. Amalei, so Hakana said to Yehuda, listen, I could bring you a letter from the Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael. The halach is not like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, because they hold that even Beis Hillel is made there when it's 1 against 1. The whole Eidus is in his battle. We're not mitzadif to what they say that has in common between the two, between the one and one. We say the whole one against one, the whole eight is in this battle. Even Beis Hillel holds like that. The only machlekes was when it was 2 against 2. So Amalei, he says, I'm not listening to you. Chitaisi, when you bring me proof with that letter that says the halach is not like Reb Shimon and Elazar, then I'll pass him differently. Right now, he has to move back to Shuris till you bring me that letter. Who Gavro? There was this person, the Dobe Kashtabi Losei Abashni. There was this person that lived in the attic 4 years. Also, Mother the Besa, Ashkeche. The owner of the house came back, came from Eretz Yisrael to take a little visit in his house. He sees he has a squatter over there. My place, Besa. What are you doing in my house? He says, "Miplanya zevinta the zavnes minach." He says, "I bought it from that guy who bought it from you." He came before Rab Chia. Rab Chia said to the one that's making a chazaka, if you have edus that the person who you claim you bought it from lived in the aliyah for 1 day, then we'll take over from there and taina for you the Eloi. But if you don't have edus that the person who you claim you bought it from lived there even for 1 day, loy, you're going to have to leave. You don't have a chazaka. Your chazaka doesn't help, even though you were there 4 years. But your taina that you bought it from that person means 0, unless the person at least lived 1 day. And the Rashbam explains because there has to be if he wasn't even there for 1 day, the person who he claims he bought it from, it's like raglayim ladova that he didn't even buy it. It sounds fishy. I was sitting in front of Rabbi Chia. Rav was the son from Rabbi Chia's from Rabbi Chia. That was his father's brother and the father's sister. There was Shtif, and there was the Rabbi Chia married his Shtif sister, his stepsister. So it was an uncle and aunt. Anyway, I'm sorry, he was the son of Rabbi Chia and the stepsister. He says, what? It's not possible to make a flip. People buy houses in the Crown Heights for a cheap price, and if it's a cheap price and somebody offers them, they can flip it that same day. So who says? And they never even lived there 1 day. So what do you have to say? You have to live with 1 day. Here you see a flip. Yeah, you can do it even before. You want to lock it up. You get a contract, but you flip it in the same day. You didn't even live there. Nevertheless, Rav saw he saw Rab Chia is not accepting that. He says if there's no umdana, if there wasn't anything, that's kenzain. But we need to have something concrete, because if not, it looks like the guy never bought it. We need something. So he says, there's a case where even if he didn't live, he doesn't have proof that he lived for a day, we'll accept his taina. If the one that's making a chazaka says, this guy who I bought it from, I saw him buy it from you, the ma'arer, the one that's fighting him, I saw him in front of my eyes him buy it from you. So I don't have to bring proof that he was there 1 day. Yes, we did. Migu, and he's believed because the Ibayamale, he could have said to him, I bought it directly from you. So this we also had the Rashbam that he brought down, it's machlekes, if it's a real Migu. You don't need a Migu. What's wrong with what he says now? That the Masik says that I bought it from a person who I saw that person buy it from you in front of me. That's a good enough taina. He doesn't have to say I bought it directly from you. It's the same taina. But then there's other Rishonim that say that taina is not such a good taina. He didn't bring down. You have to look in the traces on Lamed Aleph and Aleph. He doesn't have to be there. He just has to say. Yeah. That's not a better taina faket. Like you're saying, it's a shvacha taina. You're going to have to bring proof that he was there a day.
If he says he bought it from somebody that bought it from you,
yes.
The guy has to have proof that he was there for a day.
No, he doesn't. If he says in front of me, this person, in front of my eyes, I saw the one who I bought it from you that's fighting me.
He has to stay there for a day.
He doesn't have to stay there for a day. He has proof. He saw the Kenyan. He saw the Kenyan.
before he said the Gemara said before that the person.
That's if he doesn't say he saw anything happen. That's only if he didn't see anything. But if he saw it actually happen, that's enough.
But if he says I bought it from a guy that bought it from you, he has to stay there a day.
Yes, but if he says it happened in front of my eyes, then he doesn't have to stay there a day. That's what he's saying. Rav Moisif, the Rashbam says, you want to hear what he says? Rav Moisif, she'af Rab Chia meida she'me'ilah chazaka gam im lo yihzri ba amoicha afilo yeidachal. If he says it was in front of my eyes, I don't even need him to be there one day.
So wasn't he the big guy, my big guy?
Huh?
So why is it better that?
Oh, that's what the Rashbam is. Very good. That's why I mentioned that kasha. It's not really amigo. Anyway, Amar Rabba, Kavasei Rab Chia Mastabra. It's reasonable to say like Rab Chia, Diktani, Haba Mishum Yerusha, Einay Tzarech Taina. One who comes and says that he inherited the property, he doesn't need a taina. Taina hu delay boy. It says befeish only he doesn't need a taina. Haraya boy, but haraya he needs. Because if he didn't need a raya, the lashon should have been Haba Mishum Yerusha, Einay Tzarech Klum should have been the lashon. But he doesn't say Einay Tzarech Klum. He says Einay Tzarech, that he was there a day, that he lived there for a day. But if it meant that he doesn't even have to bring a raya that he lived there for a day, he should have said Einay Tzarech Klum. In fact, you might have a duma loy raya bayi v'loy taina bayi. Maybe you don't need neither nor a raya nor a taina. And why does it say the lashon that Abba Mishum Yerusha Einay Tzarech Taina? Because he has to say a taina that he inherited. He cannot say nothing. He has to say the taina that he inherited. But if you want, I can tell you that you have no raya that you need a raya that he was there for a day. Only by a yodesh you need. Our case where we were talking about with the attic is talking about a moicha lakeach. Shaina lekecha. Lekecha is different. The loy shadi zuzi kli. A lekecha buyer doesn't throw his money just like that. Okay, so there you don't need a raya, but maybe by Yiddish you need a raya. So he says you have no proof by a meiche, you need a raya because a lekech wouldn't throw his money to vain. You want to ask the question, need a by my. What's if he went into the field and he starts measuring this way, that way? You're not measurements. Is that considered as living there a day? Yeah, that's enough. That's considered he's there for the day. Rav Amar says no. Ovid inish nesaya arav. A lot of times people come and measure, and it's not for me. It's a little crooked, it's too narrow. I'm not taking it. So therefore, okay, we'll stop here a second.